All right, let's take a look at what we did on NVDA today. Right out the gate, first 2-minute candle, it had a buy signal here. And we started to go long, and then I did what I typically do. I'm looking for a strong momentum, and of course there's no news on it today. And it stops me out, right away. So I changed my strategy a little bit here. I start to think buy lower or swing trade this thing. And so I just enter in again on the very next, and I add to it. It does not break out up here, no momentum, no news. And I just ignore it. And I thought about putting my stop at the low of the day. But then I said, you know what? I'm changing my strategy on NVIDIA for now. If I can't get a good day trade, I'll try to swing trade it. And so I held the 2 shares that I have. And I started thinking, this would have been a great place to short this thing. So, right away, I'm thinking, by holding this for a longer term trade, I'm missing opportunities to practice shorting it. And so there's a good short right there. But you don't get the sell signal until the 20 doesn't cross under, and they're not really going in the same direction, are they? Until this candle down here. And so we short, what I did was I sold one of them here because I wanted to practice the short. It's the same equivalency as shorting it. By selling one of my longs here, I'm looking to buy it back down lower. So in essence, I'm practicing the shorting skill. I'm just doing it in reverse. I'm buying and selling in reverse order. So I still have the one position that I'm long. I want to buy the other one back cheaper down here if it keeps going. On the daily chart, it does have room to continue down to the 8 moving average, and even the pivot of yesterday, which is this bar right here. So I am combining some techniques. I'm not saying that's a good thing to do. I really need to get better at day trading, but at the same time, I have a lot of flexibility here to hold this a lot longer, and I have made money holding NVIDIA a lot longer. So I have to understand that if I'm going to use multiple strategies on a trade, that I have to always consider my maximum. So like if NVIDIA were to just take off and go bullish right now, I wouldn't have wanted to sell that position right here. I would have actually wanted to keep it. So there's a little trick to this little strategy here, because you want to buy back in if you think it's going to turn around and go up. So I have my stop loss all the way up here for this trade, because I still think it's going to roll around and go down even if it comes up. I'm still bearish on the whole thing. So I'll keep you posted on what happens. Okay, let's take a look at my first trade. I got in after the first 2-minute candle closed strongly on NVIDIA. As you can see, the market's real strong today as well. I got in over the top of the first 2-minute candle, which is a good idea. But I had my stop loss so tight that it triggered me out. And on that first red candle, it literally came down below the previous green candle and had my stop trailing candle by candle. And so I'm interested to see if I had it lower, if it would have triggered me out there as well, and to see if it was a good idea to get out up there or not, and it would have triggered me out lower. So what I did was, because I think it's going to go up today, I re-entered the position and thought about it and looked at the 5-minute chart over here and saw that it closed strongly above the 200 moving average, and how all the moving averages are closing above the 50 and everything's curving up, that I was going to put my stop loss at the bottom of the day, because I really sometimes have my stop loss too close. So that's what we're doing. The stop loss is way down here at the bottom of the day. It's a smaller position. I'm going to try not to trade as much and take better, smarter trades. Let's see what happens. All right, this is NVIDIA. Let's talk about what we're doing. I decided to close the whole position and go short. I want to practice day trading on it, and I don't want to do it the way I was doing it with the whole thing. So I'll just take the loss on the long, completely close that long position, When I first entered it, the idea was to have a stop loss under the low of the first 2-minute candle right here, and I would have been stopped out way here. And then I could have shorted here and here instead of way down here. So not keeping my original stop loss here, and it kept my mind away from potentially shorting. Once price and everything starts turning down under the 50 moving average, you start watching for shorts. And I'm missing the other opportunity here when it broke down from this area. And now I'm finally short all the way down here, which could be the bottom of the day. Now over here on the 15-minute chart, it looks like it's getting trapped under there again, doesn't it? Just like it did over here in this circle. However, it went up. I was looking at this as a short yesterday. Now it's getting trapped under here, and it could easily go up and stop me out. Because I'm not going to swing trade a short position, I will stop out on the shorts. I can hold the long positions and build a long position at some point, but I don't want to do that with shorting, especially NVDA. So that's the update with NVDA at the moment. That's where we're at. We're shorting the position, and that's the, where we can get stopped out at the top of this pivot. If it pops up over the top of this pivot right here, we will stop out. All right, let's take a look at what's developing on NVDA. It almost stopped me out. Fortunately, it did a double top here before it did. I should bring my stop loss now down to this pivot here. Hopefully, it will not come back up to this pivot here. So that'll be a good thing. And then we're getting a little narrow range bar here. If that's the only one and it shoots past, we could get it down quite a bit. And that would be great. Over on the 5-minute chart, you can see that the double top was stuck by moving averages. Let's take a look at that right here. Bottom left. Yep. Couple of double top, moving averages. A bunch of moving. So hopefully it'll keep going down. That's PayPal. We're short now. We changed our direction, and hopefully we can get something out of it. In my mind on NVDA here, this is a good place to try a short. You got everything going in the right direction. The 100, the 50, the 20, and the 8 all going down. Right? You got a narrow range capacity here off of the 8 after a try already and a double test to the top. This is a great pattern to short. Now, I have to try it just based on principle. And the stop loss, of course, will be real tight right above this last little pivot here. If it's going to keep going, this is where it's going to keep going. And if it's not, then I'll be glad to get out of that quickly. So I'll see if I even take the trade or not. We'll see. Back over to NVDA, you can see here that we have the 50, the 100, and the 200 all going down. And you have everything in order, the 50, the 20, and the 8. I mean, we've been having that here. We had that here. And it just continues to chop around and go up. Here we have it again. What's interesting about this position is that we're making lower highs, which is good. Here on the 15, we're making a 5-minute chart. We're making lower highs, which is good, but it's so choppy. And the 15-minute chart in this circle area is still trapped underneath the trend lines, and that's good. But the way it's chopping back up and piercing and going all the way up to the 20 moving average and all these, and just really wrecking people's stop losses. It's really challenging. So I'm just going to hold the one I got. And the worst thing that could happen is if the 8, the 20, and the 50 all start turning up right here. If they do, I have to get out. So I'm thinking over this pivot right here. It almost stopped me out, by the way. I don't know if it was one tick off. It looks like it touched my stop loss, and it did not actually trigger me, which would have really been upsetting if it stopped me out there and then goes down. But this is one of the times when it seems to have worked in my favor, which is good. Over here on the 5-minute chart, you've got the same thing. You got the 8 moving down, the 20 moving down, everything going down. And you've got a red candle that looks like a sell signal. You know, it looks like that would be the candle to jump on. Like this one here was. And like this one could have been. Like this one could have been. And it's getting stuck in this whole area. So maybe the point here is to wait until it breaks down here and get that same kind of really tight, narrow range bar to see if it'll work with a nice short stop loss. I'm keeping my stop right up there at the top. I mean, if it comes up there and stops me out, then that's where I would have been stopped out earlier. And that's the day it is, the choppy, just amazing choppy day that it is. And I'll let you know what happens. Looks like it's going to get me right now, but we'll see. Okay, with NVDA, I think I finally did something right. We got into the short position. Now remember, I was worried about the 50 starting to curve up, or was that the PayPal? Either way, these moving averages got real tight right here, which is interesting. They weren't so spread apart anymore. It was a lower high and a lower high, and I did see a chance to go short. I had my sell down here, and it triggered me in, and I came and looked at it, and I kept trailing little by little. Okay, so I'm glad that that happened. It all started because it did not stop me out at the top here by 1 tick, which is, you know, very helpful. And I added to that position when it came down here, and my target was over here on the day chart, the previous day, the bottom of the previous day, which is this line right here. So I had a buy to cover here close to it, and I took the one that I had up here and I trailed it and I squeezed them together as close as I possibly could. And when I was either it's going to hit my target or I'm going to stop loss on the target from behind. And once it came up and triggered out the stop loss from behind, I just closed the other one down here and got them both for right down here, which I think is pretty good. So that's the NVDA. What I like about this is we switched positions. We were long at first, and we had to make up our mind what we're going to do. Got a little wishy-washy on the trading style. Did I want to swing trade it now that I'm long and just hold it overnight and, you know, not lose anything? I finally realized, you know, just try to short this thing. Don't do that. So we took a lot of losses on this drop down here. But then we started shorting, all right? Started shorting, and ever since then, I think this last one anyway worked out pretty good. I'm trying to think if I shorted over here. I started shorting over here and I held it. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, we added a second piece all the way over here. So right here is where I closed in reversed position. All right. Right here is where I closed and reversed. I said go short here because it looked like a good chance to short. Came all the way up, almost stopped me out. All right. And then this looked like a good place to short here. I didn't jump in right here. Had I would have been very frustrated with this pullback up here. But what I did was I waited for it to trigger me in below these pivots. And technically, I really wasn't below this over here, so that was pretty risky. All right, example of a good trade here with NVDA. I want to make this a separate video. This is classic where the the 50 and the 100 and the 50 are going down in the same direction. And they're all below the 200. And price actually crosses above the 8 and the 20, right? While everything's trending down. This is a good setup for me. Now, I tried to get in a very tight little range bar, which we got in on this candle here, and we watched it slowly break down. The stop loss was at the top of this candle. Literally, we got in right here, and the stop loss was that very previous candle. And of course, it's choppy and around, and it's going to probably come up here and stop me out. But that's today, and that's the way the market is sometimes. But when price is above the 8 and the 20, while the 200, 150 are trending in the same direction, you want to try to get it up higher like this and short it down instead of
order filled.
And it just comes right back up, of course, but that's a good, we're still profit on that though. But that's the kind of trade I'm looking to do. That's the kind of trade I like. Regardless of the choppy market we're having right now, that's a good trade setup to me. Okay, with Zoom, I want to focus. Okay, with NVDA today, I made a lot of whipsaw trades, but I want to focus on the two trades that worked out. I did miss some good opportunities as well. And that is, I had a trade waiting right here for the breakdown under these pivots because the 50 and the 100 were going down, and the 20 and the 8 were underneath the 50 and was going in the right order. And so it triggered me in when I wasn't looking, and I just sold on the drop because it was close to this pivot right here. I sold as close to that as I possibly could. If I would have trailed my stop candle by candle, it would have stopped me out higher up. And if I would have left my stop at break even, it would have stopped me out for zero profit. So I'm glad I did what I did there. Here I saw it happening again. I shorted and I went down as low as I could, and I just got stopped out on that hammer. Unfortunately, I did not stay in this because of the way it's been acting lately, but there's other opportunities here too. Once it finally did break below yesterday's low pivot here, it chopped around in both directions. First it was below it, then it was over it, then it was below it again, and then it shot way up here. So very choppy, very whipsawy. And then I took a trade right here that actually did work. Unfortunately, I didn't get a whole lot of profit on it before it made this huge, gigantic move because I was trailing candle by candle on the way down. And what I was doing, I was watching this turn red, and I noticed that the moving averages were trending down, except it hopped over the quick moving averages for a minute. And I've noticed that that's a good time to actually sell if you're shorting, because that's where it pops up the highest. For instance, over here, as the 50 and the 100 are moving down, the price jumped up over the top of the 20 and the 8 for a moment here. This was a great place to short, and happened to be where I did short, but I wish I would have done it higher. If I did do it higher, it's quite possible this little wick would have stopped me out. So that's the way it goes on that. So that's what I'm looking at. Here again, 50 and 100 are trending down, and then price jumps up over the 8 and 20, and I watch that red candle develop, and on the very next one, I start to try to enter in. And when it closes, I use that candle as my stop loss. We did not get a wick snap up to stop me out, so we were able to stay in that trade until it went all the way down here, and that would have been a great profit. But I didn't get out on time. I didn't have a chance. So what happened was I used that candle as my stop loss, and sure enough, it just barely tipped over it, and it was still profitable. The trade idea is a good idea, but that just whipped me out for a tiny profit on that. So I wanted to recap that for NVIDIA, that those are the kinds of trades I'm looking to make when I'm shorting. Here's the analysis of my trade on NVIDIA. It's that technique that I like so much. Here's the 5-minute chart over here. As you can see, price has snapped up over the 8 and the 20 moving average right here and here. Even over the 200 moving average, it's over all the moving averages, but the moving averages are trending down. The 200 and then the 100 and the 50 are all in proper order, more or less flat. But if you look at the 15-minute chart, you see that they're trending down. You see that price popped up real high today, but on the hourly chart, you can make some more sense even, because now you have, it went up to the 50 today, but the 20 and the 8 are below the 50, curving around. So you have the 8 under the 20, you have the 8 crossing the 20, and they're both crossing under the 50. Now, if I were to put my indicator on here, you would see a sell signal on one of these bars over here. Let's look at it. And that would show you that the moving averages have crossed to the downside. And let's put that on just so we can make sure you see what I'm saying. Right there. That's the first candle to close with the 8 and 20 crossing over the 50 to the downside, right? You just have this enormous jump up. But on the daily chart, you can clearly see that it's bumping into a trend line. Let's look at it real close. two trend lines really. One coming down this way, it was trying to go up through. And then this one right here, from this pivot here and this pivot here, and yesterday closed below it. But you see that it caught that too as well. It caught that too as well. And so I didn't redesign the trend line. I just left it here. And fortunately, I noticed that. That was one of the things that I was paying attention to. So the question is, why didn't I short it quicker than letting it drop all the way down here before I changed my mind? Because right here would have been a very, very, very good sell. Even though the 50 and the 100 are going up, and you know, it hasn't crossed yet. This is the best place, structurally speaking. Sometimes you just got to use price action and structure and ignore the moving averages, especially when you got other information from higher time charts. Because the lower time charts that you're trying to trade on, it's a delayed reaction. By the time I got the crossover, it had just started taking off right here, and that wouldn't have been too bad. The 8 crossing the 20 would have been right there, but it didn't. You didn't get, well, right here. You see the red dot. That's finally you get the crossover of the two moving averages under the 50 moving average, and basically it did continue after that signal, right? After that signal. And what are we looking for when we have that signal? We're looking for price to come back up over the top of the 8 and the 20, which is what happened here, right here. This is what happened right here. Price came over the 8 and the 20 while the 50 and the 100 are headed down, except the 50 is not under the 100 yet. So it's not quite in order yet. But we still have the downtrend. No, the 100 moving average is not actually going down. So that's a tough one because you don't have it in the right order and you don't quite have the 100 going down. But over here you have the crossover. 50's going down under the 100. You have price popping back up over the 8 and the 20. Right? So at the top of this, that would have been a pretty good place to try and short it. Why? Because you have the price popping back up over the top of the moving averages. The 8 and the 20 are the ones that it pops back over. When it's downtrending, you want it to pop back over the 8 and the 20. So this area right here would have been another interesting area. The problem is the downtrend is not very strong. I don't even see the 200 moving average on this chart. Where is it? Yeah, it's right here. Let's make these a little bit brighter so we can see a whole lot better what I'm talking about here. And there we go. All right, the white is the 50. The white is the 50. We always want to make sure that the 50 is going down and the 100 is going down with it. So the best area with the most clear direction of these areas right here, which means the 50 and the 100 are going in the same direction. So now you can see the 100 is going down, and the white is going down in the same area, and price pokes over top of and closes off over the 8 and the 20. All right, that happens here again, right here. And that we did get a sell right there. We got a good trade on that one. We got a good trade right here too. The big problem with NVIDIA today is I couldn't get out of it early enough, and I held it way too long. I should have saw it consolidating under the cross over here. I should have saw it consolidating. And I should have recognized that the 50 was below the 100 on the 5 and on the 15, and this crossover on the hourly, very bearish. And so going long was okay for a minute there, right there, but it just didn't last. And the classic holding it and trying to figure out what I was going to do. I was going to swing trade it and keep it and hold it. Bad idea. I'm trying to practice day trading, and that's an old habit that I need to break. And it tried to pop into my mind because I do swing trade this on another account. And the temptation to swing trade it when it goes against you is very strong. But on this account, I don't want to do that. I want to practice day trading. So I got mixed up in my styles for a second there, but I did switch positions down here. And we did keep our stop loss very tight and had a couple of good trades. Had 3 good trades, actually. And one really close, tight stop loss. And the big loss, if I didn't have this big loss here, probably would be positive on this today. But that's the trading review for this NVDA trade right here. Hope it makes sense.